everybody. I just have to thank John and Andrew for allowing me to go before my two favourite and most brilliant, eloquent speakers, Tariq Ali and Tony Benn. I really didn't want to have to follow them, so thank you. So we are here, all of us, in support of Wikileaks. And I've been sort of doing a little bit of reflection to work out why it is that I feel so strongly about this particular issue. I'm not anti all secrets. I believe in the right to privacy. I'm certainly not an anarchist. I'm not anti all wars. And I don't even consider myself to be on the left or the right. I think what this is about, for me, is the fact that I hate lies. And what Wikileaks has done is to expose the most dangerous lies of all, those told to us by our governments that we've elected. In 2003, I joined the Million Man March. Probably most of you were there too. We protested the war in Iraq, and our protests fell on deaf ears. We went to war on a lie. Soldiers' lives were put at risk. 1 million civilians have been killed. $1 trillion has been wasted. Now, if Wikileaks had existed then, 10 years ago, perhaps there would be no Chilcot inquiry. Perhaps if we'd been told the truth then, we would never have gone to war. Wikileaks has exposed corruption, war crimes, and torture. We've been given the hard truths about the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. And for me personally, what has been interesting are the revelations relating to Pakistan, where I used to live. I lived there for 10 years, and I, during that time, experienced what it was like to live under a corrupt regime who are not accountable and who regularly abuse power. I was threatened with incarceration myself and charged with smuggling, a non-bailable offence, all because of my husband's politics and a hostile government. I think the two things that the Pakistan cables illustrated to me were, well, they illustrated lots of things, but the two most important was that, number one, the US were fully aware that by continuing their military activities in Pakistan, their covert military operations in Pakistan's tribal area, they risked destabilizing Pakistan, a nuclear country. They were fully aware of that, and yet they continued. The other thing that they highlighted for me is the discrepancy between what leaders tell their public and what they say behind closed doors, particularly to American officials in this instance. So we heard how Prime Minister Gilani shamelessly reassured the American ambassador Patterson, "Oh, don't worry, we'll complain about the drones in the National Assembly, but then we'll ignore it." Wikileaks has also revealed that America is fighting a secret war in Yemen. Now, for those who question whether this information is in the public interest, I would ask, if you were an American, would you not feel that it's your right to know that you are funding a war which has been officially denied and which has killed 200 civilians mistakenly? Most importantly, though, we're watching what's happening in the Arab world. Wikileaks has contributed to the downfall of a 24-year dictatorship. The first domino has fallen, and now we're seeing those extraordinary scenes in Egypt. Democratic freedom being fought via the World Wide Web. Of course governments want WikiLeaks shut down. Authority has always opposed that kind of disclosure, right back to 200 years ago when the proceedings of the British Parliament was to be made public, right through to the release of the Pentagon Papers. We expect the scaremongering. WikiLeaks puts lives at risk, we're told. Well, in fact, it's the lies and the silences which WikiLeaks exposes which puts lives at risk. It's the wars that have been fought on the basis of those lies that have made the world a much more dangerous place. WikiLeaks has a 4-year publishing history. In that time, no one has been harmed as far as we're aware as a result of the cables and the leaks. No democracy has ever been harmed by a public that is better informed. Those that would have you believe that the world is a safer place when the public is kept ignorant are advocating a Chinese or Russian model of secrecy and deceit. We are also told that WikiLeaks is a terrorist organization. Vice President Joe Biden said Julian Assange is a high-tech terrorist. Now that's the same Joe Biden, by the way, who said that Mubarak is not a dictator. Clearly in Egypt they have 30-year presidential terms. We also heard Sarah Palin. Yeah, always good for a soundbite. Who said that Assange should be hunted down like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban. There have even been calls for his assassination on TV. The US has blocked access to the WikiLeaks website. It stopped donations. It has put pressure on PayPal, Amazon, Visa, MasterCard, Western Union, Bank of America, the Swiss Bank, Post Finance, all to withdraw their services from WikiLeaks. And in the midst of all this, the ultimate irony. The US is pleased, and I quote, to announce it will host this year's UNESCO World Press Freedom Day event. And here is a snippet from the statement from the US State Department. We are concerned about the determination of some governments to censor and silence individuals and to restrict the free flow of information. We mark events such as World Press Freedom Day in the context of our enduring commitment to support and expand press freedom and the free flow of information in this digital age. Well, meanwhile, Julian Assange, the real champion of the free flow of information, has been under house arrest, even though he hasn't actually been charged. The US, meanwhile, are examining ways to take legal action against him. He's been accused of treason, even though he's an Australian, not an American citizen. And, of course, he's been accused of rape. Although, in Sweden, more specifically, he's been accused of something called minor rape, which sounds like an oxymoron, but which actually means that it doesn't constitute rape here in this country, because it doesn't involve violence or lack of consent. Today I was in court to attend the extradition hearing. Anyone who wonders why Julian doesn't just go back to Sweden to face the charges, and that has been asked, ought to know or be told that there is a very real risk of onward rendition to the US. We also know that if he returns to Sweden, he will be held incommunicado until he is tried, and that his lawyer will be given a gag order. I suspect that what's on trial here is not his alleged sexual misconduct, but freedom of information itself. This is about censorship and intimidation. It's designed to smear, to silence, to contain, and most of all, to distract from the very real issue of the leaks themselves. we're living in this mad world at the moment where lies are protected and revealing the truth is criminalized. There are calls for the punishment, execution even, of the man who has revealed war crimes, but not for those who've sanctioned or perpetrated them. Democracy needs a strong, free, and responsible media. That is the only way that you prevent abuses of power. Wikileaks is now part of that media. It has broken no more laws than the newspapers with which it collaborates: the New York Times, the Guardian, Der Spiegel. If Julian Assange is prosecuted for espionage, then the future of investigative journalism everywhere is in jeopardy, as is our right as citizens to be told the truth. Thank you.